Ashley, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so what's something crunchy or zen that you've done lately?
I would have to say I really enjoy doing a nice, relaxing bubble bath.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, I find it kind of zen to do. I either do like Epsom salts, or sometimes somebody gave me a really nice, um, like bath soap as like a bath tea, and so
Hmm.
I like to just like take a nice relaxing bath when I'm stressed, or sometimes just for fun.
Yeah. Do you read or like listen to anything?
Yeah, I usually read.
Welcome to my Crunchy Zen era. This is a podcast about with a little bit of fun, a little humor, and a whole lot of curiosity. I'm your host, Nicole Swisher, and this week my guest is Ashley Weaver.
Hi.
Ashley, hey Ashley. So Ashley is a librarian and an author of two book series, the Amory Ames series and Electra McDonnell. And her first novel in the Amory Ames series, Murder at Brightwell, was nominated for an Edgar Award for best first novel. And then her most recent book, One Final Turn, is the final book in the Electra McDonnell series, which I love, and which is why I reached out to have her on the podcast. So, sorry, what did you say?
I was going to say, yes, I was so excited to hear from you. Thank you for inviting me. I think this may be my first podcast.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, this is
Yeah.
great. It's my first remote podcast, so it's great. What is one memory that you wish you could relive and why?
This is a good question. I have a lot of really great memories. I think one that was really special to me was growing up. I always wanted to travel a lot, and one of my like most desired destinations was Paris. And so the first time I went to Paris was really a great memory. And I remember actually I had a friend whose husband was stationed in the military, and so she was living in Germany at the time, and she drove to Belgium to pick me and two other friends up at the airport, and then we drove into Paris. And so I remember driving in at night and getting the first view of the Eiffel Tower when it was glittering, and I remember I screamed. And so that was just like a really fun. That's always a memory that sticks out to me, is that first glimpse of Paris and my first chance to travel internationally.
I bet that coming in driving is just a different experience than flying
Yes, it
in.
was totally different. Yeah, it was really
Yeah,
exciting because we got to spend a couple of days in Belgium, and then, she could drive us around the city and stuff, so we got to see quite a bit.
that's amazing. I feel like we should introduce your dogs.
I know they're being so bad. I'm so sorry. They get
Oh,
really
they're,
upset when I lock them out.
I mean, they can join us. It's fine.
I have two dogs, and she's being a little bit naughty in there. But that's Daisy. She can hear me that there's fun and excitement going on. But if I
Yeah.
let them out, they'll be all over the place. So they're they're
What kind of
they're locked
dogs?
up, but not completely absent.
Yeah. What kind of dogs are they?
They're both mixed breeds. They're both rescues. So
Oh,
she,
those are the best kind.
yeah, she's a good dog, but she's kind of jealous of my time.
That's understandable. You're her person. So I have a little grab bag questions, which are random questions I put together a long time ago, so I don't even remember what they are.
Okay, awesome. That keeps it really
So
exciting.
it does. What is your favorite kind of cheese?
My favorite kind of cheese.
Yes.
I'm a pretty basic cheese girl. I like a good cheddar.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's not too exciting. And I'm from Wisconsin originally, so
Oh,
you'd think I would
really?
have like a wide variety of cheeses. That I do like a lot of cheeses, but like cheddar's my go-to.
Okay. So, did you always know that you wanted to be an author, or did you have like other ideas as a child?
I think I went through a lot of phases. I feel like every millennial girl wanted to be a marine biologist, or at least like a lot of us. So that was one of the things I wanted to be when I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be a librarian for a while, which I actually became. And so there was a few different things, but I remember writing my very first story, and I probably was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and I remember writing this story down on some of my dad's computer printer paper. And I remember that being like my first realization that I could take a story from my own head and make it into a book. And so from that moment on, I think I always wanted to be a writer. So it started very early for sure.
Would you say that was your first unpublished book, or did you have like another bigger one that you worked
I
on?
did, well, my first full length novel I wrote my freshman year of high school. And I grew up watching a lot of old movies, and I liked the old gangster movies a lot. And so I wrote sort of, it was a gangster mystery romance set in Prohibition era Chicago. And I would type a few pages every night on my little computer and print them out and bring them to school. And my friends would sit around the lunch table and read them and give me feedback. So that was kind of my first taste of writing for readers.
Yeah. Were they like harsh critics, or were they generally just like
They were
cheerleaders?
generally, yeah, pretty, yeah, they were generally pretty, you know, I'm trying to think if there was anyone who was like giving me, they, in general, they really liked it. I didn't have too much, harsh feedback at that point. They were more friends who, enjoyed reading and would just want me to get more pages out.
Yeah. Those are the great friends to have in high school, I think.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So you have, like I said at the beginning, you've got two series, both
Hmm.
mysteries. I've read the Electra McDonnell ones. I'm saving the other ones for a long flight that's coming up.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah. So how would you describe like the book genre that you write?
It kind of falls, I would say, sort of into the cozy mystery genre. My first series is set in 1930s England, and it's a husband and wife solving mysteries in kind of an upper class setting. That was sort of my, I was sort of inspired by Agatha Christie and the golden age of mystery. I've always loved her books and sort of that general time period, as I mentioned, growing up, loving old movies. And so I found a lot of inspiration from that time period. And so they fall sort of into the cozy mysteries. And then my Electra McDonnell series takes place in World War II and is a safecracker who is working for the British government to help, do spy work and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit more someone, I think, one reader described them more as sort of cozy thrillers, because
I
there's
like
sort of a
that.
general mystery, but it's more of like a caper in each book as opposed to a sort of limited set of suspects and searching down the clues and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I really liked Electra because I like the anti-hero, and she's a thief and then starts working for the government, but to me she never fully gave up that other side of her, and I like that.
thank you. Yeah, she's always got a little bit of her criminal streak running through her. I think it'll probably always be there for her, but she's learned kind of how to make it work to her advantage.
Yeah. And so this is a weird comment, but my mom's side of my family, their last name is Ames. And
Oh,
so I'm excited. I'm like,
yeah, that's great. It's perfect.
yeah, we had Minneapolis, there was this legendary like corrupt mayor named Doc Ames. And so it's like
Oh,
this family lore.
yeah, that's amazing. Doc Ames is such a great name too. That sounds like
It really
a
is.
book character.
Yeah, yeah, you can keep that in mind for the future.
Yeah, maybe he'll be a relation.
Yes. My grandma would love that. So how did you come up with the idea for the Electra McDonnell series?
I actually read a book called Agent Zigzag by Ben McIntyre. I have been reading a lot of World War II nonfiction, just kind of as a general interest. A lot of times, as a reader, I'll just get into phases and read a lot of different things. And this book was about a small time criminal, kind of a petty crook. And I think he was even involved maybe in a few safe cracking operations. Though I don't think he was a safe cracker himself. But he was caught by the police and imprisoned on the Channel Islands in England, which was the only part of the UK that was occupied by the Germans. So when the Germans went to the Channel Islands, they found him in prison and they said, "We'll let you out of prison if you'll be a spy for us." So he agreed. They took him back to Germany, taught him to be a spy, and then parachuted him back into England. And he immediately went to the authorities and said, "Germany thinks I'm spying for them. Do you want me to spy for you?" And became a double agent. And so the
Cool.
book is amazing. It just reads, not for nonfiction, it reads just like a thriller novel, but I loved the idea of someone who had all these sort of illicit skills that put him on the wrong side of the law and of society before the war, and that was what exactly made him perfect for this job during the war. And
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of sparked an idea, and I thought, well, what if I had sort of like a family of criminals, and focused on a female main character who was part of this, and how she kind of found out who she wanted to be and through the war, and how she could use those skills for the war effort. So that's where the idea was born.
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot about World War II, and I just in like London, I didn't know that much. How much time did you end up spending researching?
I did quite a bit of research. I don't always do all my research prior to the novel. So a lot of times when I'm writing, if I know that I'm going to need to insert something, I'll use brackets. So I can put, like brackets, research here, and then when I'm in the sort of research phase, I'll go back and search the document for brackets, and then I can go back and find everything that needs to be filled in. Sometimes it'll be something simple like a street name that I'll have to spell out, or sometimes during the writing process, I won't be feeling particularly creative one day, and I'll think, okay, well, instead of writing today, I'll go and fill out a couple areas of research and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
How do you?
and I did a lot of, as I said, World War II reading before just for fun, and so that sort of was a
Mhm.
good bit of base knowledge too. But I learned a lot of really interesting things as I
Yeah.
researched as well.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, that makes sense that you had read more ahead of time because I was like, that could have taken a lot of time
Yeah.
to get through. How do you research something like how do you crack a safe and get away with stuff as a thief?
Well, actually, I found I want to say it was some sort of manual for a locksmith.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I found some good information there in an old locksmithing manual. But also there's several YouTube videos on how to crack safes.
Oh,
And
of
I think there's
course.
a lot of locksmiths now it's like people will buy safes at auctions and stuff that are with the keys lost or whatever, or combinations lost, and they won't know how to get into them. And so locksmiths will, have a job opening those sometimes. And so there'll be some YouTube videos showing you how to get into old safes if you've come across one or if you've purchased one. So there's some good information available on YouTube as
Yeah.
well.
Are you a researcher at heart? Like, does this just make you so excited to do that?
Yes, I think it goes hand in hand with being a librarian.
Yeah.
I love research. I love, and I'm just the sort of person. I mean, I'll be watching a movie, and then, it's a classic. Like, where's this actor from? I'll have to look up every movie they've been in. But also, just if there's like one little line of the plot that I want to know more about, I'll end up on Wikipedia or something, just reading a bunch of information on how that element
Yeah.
of the plot came together. So I just enjoy research for the sake of research. So that works out well with writing.
Do you sometimes get really sidetracked when you're like, I should be
Oh yeah.
writing?
Definitely. Yeah, sometimes, and especially the, Wikipedia rabbit holes, those can lead you down a lot of, just click one other
Yeah.
thing and pretty soon it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you find yourself reading something totally different than what you need to be reading. But
What would you say is like the weirdest rabbit hole you went down during this book?
oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
What about the weirdest question you've been asked to research as a librarian?
I worked as a reference librarian for a while at the reference desk of a public library, and I had someone call in one day and ask how they could donate a body to science. And that was something, I was like, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research on that and call you back. But there are apparently a lot of institutions and medical facilities and things that you can donate your body to. So I learned something new that day too.
I did not. I didn't know that.
That was interesting being a reference librarian because people would call in and you never know when you picked up the phone what they were going to ask for.
Yeah. That could give you a lot of ideas maybe.
Yeah.
So, when you sat down to write the first book, did you have an idea of how the whole series would end, or is that something that kind of came to you as you wrote?
I did not have an idea. They say writers fall into either plotters who plot everything out or pantsers who write by the seat of their pants.
Mm-hmm.
And very much a pantser. I don't even know how the books will end when I start writing them. So in the individual books. So I just sort of write my books out of order. I'll write chunks of different scenes of things that I know I want to happen, and then I kind of piece them together and fill in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a far-reaching plan of where I wanted everything to go. I just sort of put in the elements that I knew I thought would be interesting to pursue throughout the series, and went from there.
That's so interesting because I've always thought people just have outlines figured out and they know exactly what's going to happen here and here and here. And yeah, I've never been able to get very far in writing, and I think I get stuck in the plot.
Yeah, it's probably an easier way to do it. My brain, I tried before to write an outline ahead of time, and my brain just doesn't want to work that way. So I just roll with it. But
Are you a planner in your everyday life, or is that similar to how you?
I'm a little bit more of a planner in my everyday life. I do like to
Okay.
know kind of, what's going to happen, and what the steps are that I need to get done. But there's a
Okay.
little bit of pantsing in there, in everyday life as well. But I'm probably more of a planner in everyday life.
I'm starting to come up with a theory because you're the second author who has said that they're a pantser but a planner in
Uh-huh.
their everyday life. So
Oh yeah, maybe it's sort of looking for that little sense of adventure in
yeah,
a less there's less consequences maybe when you're writing a book than in real life.
yeah, I'll have to take a poll, figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I found one thing I really enjoyed about your books was just that I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I figured out the romance part, which it was fine because they ended up, we'll just say she ended up with who I was hoping she would. But like the plot was very unique and surprising to me. And I was just curious, how do you even come up with that? And are like, no one's going to figure this out or no one's done this before?
I think that's sort of an element of that's part of my pantsing is that knowing that sometimes I feel like if I don't know who the culprit is maybe or like who the villain's going to be or exactly how it's going to work out as I'm writing it maybe lends a little bit of that uncertainty to certain parts of the novel or the characters don't know at that moment how things are going to work out because I don't know how things are going to work out. So I think maybe that could contribute to that a little bit.
Interesting.
But
And how much editing do you end up doing before you send it to your publisher?
because I am a pantser and a procrastinator, it's usually they get. There's been a couple times I finished writing my draft, at 3 a.m. the day it's due and send it off.
Oh
So
my gosh.
not draft, but like finish wrapping up. It's not like very first draft, but um, as perfect in perfect circumstances, I'll have finished the whole book and then I'll have time to read over it a couple more times and make sure that, like I said, all my little clues are lining up and there's not a lot of loose ends and things that I never addressed or that kind of thing. So, but once it goes to my editor, she sends back notes on it. Then I do another revision and then it goes back and goes to the copy editor and then it goes to the proofreader. And so there's a lot of steps in the process to make sure that things line up well before it's published.
Yeah. And so for your first series, how much did you have written by the time you went and got an agent and got into like the very traditional publishing route?
For my first series, I had the book finished. Actually, I had a friend who was my writing buddy, and we would write in the evenings or on weekends and cheer each other on and send each other chapters back and forth to critique. And so we had finished our books, and she had said that, I kind of thought that we were, yay, we finished our books and that was fun. And she said, no, now we're going to try to get agents. And so then we had to go about researching that process and see what needed to be done, writing a query letter and researching the agents you're sending it to and all that kind of thing. So I had the first book written when I sent it off to an agent, but with the idea that it would be a series in mind. And actually, the first book I had left with a cliffhanger a little bit. When you read the book, the very last scene was not part of the book,
Okay.
but the lady who did become my agent said readers like closure, so you can leave a little bit of uncertainty as to where you want to go in the series, but you don't want to leave too much left hanging. And so then I ended up writing that last scene. And she was right, and it worked out perfectly. So I started with that one, and then I believe they offered me a 2-book deal, and then they came back a little bit later and said they would take 2 more books, and then I ended up doing 3 more after that.
That's cool. Is it, I mean, how many people did you have to send it to before your agent was hooked?
I think that my agent was the third agent I sent it to. I
Okay.
think I sent it to one who said it wasn't right for their editorial contacts, and then I didn't hear back from one, and I think she was the third one I sent it to.
Wow. That's really
And I
neat.
found, yeah, it was fun. I found her by there was a series that I really enjoyed that was a mystery series that I felt had a similar vibe. I think it was set in Victorian England, but it was a strong female protagonist and
Mm-hmm.
sort of an undertone of romance, and she was solving mysteries and
Yeah.
sort of an unconventional character. And so I looked up who the agent for that series was, and that's who I ended up signing with. So that's something I always tell authors is look for a series that you feel like is similar to yours or a series that you really enjoy, and
Mm-hmm.
see who represents that, because that's a good way to find an agent who may be interested in what you're writing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I like the unconventional female characters. I like.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it like that. Do you, when you create your characters, do you create them like at all based on people you know, or how do you come up with their character?
I don't usually base them on people. Uh, for one thing, I said, people have asked me this before, and I say, well, in writing mysteries, it's kind of dangerous because either, they could end up being the victim or the murderer, especially the way I write, not knowing till the end who's going to
Yeah.
fit the bill to be the culprit. But my cousin's husband, I was just visiting my cousin, and he said he wanted me to write a villain in one of my stories with his name, but I won't say it in case I ever do. And then he said, but I want at the end, the detective can catch him, but I want the detective to say how clever his plot was so that he almost got away with it. So maybe one day I will have a character based on someone I know, but mostly I
Mm-hmm.
just sort of let them develop on their own as I'm writing the
Yeah.
scenes and see kind of how their little personalities come out. And I always heard authors say things about like characters doing things on their own. And I was like, well, that seems kind of strange because you're the one writing it. But there really are things that have happened that I was not even planning to put down on, to type out. And they just all of a sudden, kind of happened in my mind, I guess, as I was writing. But it's kind of fun to see what ends up unfolding, especially
Yeah.
when I'm not writing from an outline. It can always be a surprise.
Do you find that like the more you write those characters, the more it's just kind of like it just naturally you think like them when you're writing them, or do you
Yes,
have to? Okay.
definitely. Um, like I mentioned, Amory Ames, the heroine in my first series,
Mm-hmm.
is a society woman, and she's kind of elegant and likes fancy clothes, but she's smart and sophisticated. And so when I switched to Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
Electra McDonnell, who's this heroine of the second series, she's a little bit more rough and tumble, I guess. Like she's
Yeah.
grown up sort of probably lower middle class, and
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't really care about clothes, and she's ready for an adventure, and she grew up with her older boy cousins kind of like brothers, and so she's used to sort of being one of the boys. And so when I first switched over to writing from one series to the next, occasionally I would catch myself writing something and I would say, that sounds like something Amory would say, not something Ellie would say. And so I'd
Mm-hmm.
have to rewrite it. But the further I got into the series, the more I felt like I was kind of
Yeah.
just writing from her perspective. And so the shift became easier then.
Do you have to keep track of, I guess, the consistency in the books? I don't know. I think of like the show Bible for a show running, but like if you've been writing something for so long, do you ever have to go back and be like, oh, was this like Electra or was this Amory?
Yes, definitely. Well, I don't know so much between the two of them, but within the series, sometimes, especially things like eye color, or I'll have
Oh,
to go
yeah.
back and double check and make sure that I'm not switching somebody. And then finally, like the last couple of books, I finally made just one document of all the names of all the characters throughout my two series.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I'll be like, I can't remember if I've ever used the name Mary before or something, to where I don't want to just keep recycling the same names. So finally
Yeah.
made that document so I can search names to make sure I'm not repeating them. But I probably could benefit from having something like that with a little bit of, information about each character and what they
Mm-hmm.
look like and everything. But I'm not always organized enough for that. So
Yeah. Eventually people are going to be like, what's up with Mary? Like,
yeah,
just showing
she
up
really
all the
likes
time.
people named Mary.
Do you have a favorite character that you've written?
That's a good question. I feel a little bit like that's like having to pick your favorite child.
Yeah.
So I don't, I like Amory and Electra in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they sort of have similar, even though they're very, very different women, they have similar qualities that I just sort of admire in general. They're, smart and capable and clever, and they want, even though Amory is looking for criminals and Electra is a criminal,
Mm-hmm.
they both sort of have this innate sense of right and wrong and justice and injustice. And so they want to see that, the good people succeed and the bad people don't. And so
Yeah.
I feel like those are kind of similar qualities in both of them that I admire. And I like how they sort of show themselves in different ways in the two very different women.
I like that. Yeah. Any strong female characters, I'm like, I need more. So you said earlier that like for your first book, you kind of had a writing buddy, writing partner. Do you still do that, or is it very much like a lone process now?
I do. That same writing buddy, she still reads all my books. Sometimes it's just her and my sister are usually the ones who end up reading before my roughest of rough drafts. And so, yep, she's still one of the people that I read with. And I have a couple friends who read my books, but I have a couple friends who like to write as well. And so sometimes we'll do, we'll say, oh, I'm going to write now for an hour. Let's see how many words we get done, or that kind of thing. So we kind of keep each other on task, and
Yeah.
it's not such a lonely process then. But I do a lot of writing very late at night. And so
Mm-hmm.
then I just sort of get in my zone, and
Yeah.
I usually put on a background TV show of some sort to watch or to listen to a little bit, in the background as I'm writing. So
Do you have a go-to TV show?
for a while, I was really, especially during one book, I watched like several seasons of Project Runway. So I was really excited to see it's just come back because I had watched it. It was a good show for writing because you don't have to pay a whole lot of attention throughout the, it's you can kind of a thing you can kind of look up and down at.
Yeah.
And then at the end you have the little reward of getting to watch the runway show where they show off all the clothes they made.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was sort of like, now pay attention and write during this other episode, and then you can stop and focus on the runway show when it gets to it. So that saw me through one book at least.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like everybody has kind of those background shows of like, just like having it on. I like Gilmore Girls. Just like
Oh yeah, my sister's a big Gilmore Girls fan too.
I've seen so many times that I'm like I can tune it out and tune back in, and I haven't missed anything.
Yeah, you know exactly what's happening.
Yeah. So how do you like create a space where you're creative?
I feel like, well, to a certain extent, I know that I have to be creative. And so it's sort of like one of those things where, okay, well, I just have to sit down and do this. And so it's not, I found, especially as the more books you write, the less it's, oh, I feel so inspired to sit down and write, 2,000 words today. And it's more like, okay, I have to sit down and write 2,000 words today.
Yeah.
And so I just try to, caffeine is one of my go-tos. That's something that helps a lot. I'll just sit, and I do a lot of writing in my bed, and I'll just bring my laptop in there, and sometimes like a cup of coffee or tea, and I'll put my fun little background shows on and just get to work. So I do find that creativity, usually sometimes it's a matter of not being inspired to start, but being inspired once you start. And so, I may not feel like sitting down to write at this moment, but once I sit down and start getting the words on the page, then I find myself getting excited about what I'm writing and looking forward to, fleshing out the scene and figuring out what's going to happen. So I find that that's sort of, it's the matter of, getting myself over that hump of that initial motivation, and then I can really start to feel creative.
I feel like starting is just like, it's like a wall sometimes.
Yes. It's
Like,
true of so many things. Just getting started is the hardest part.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what. And so like, have you ever run into writer's block when you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot have writer's block right now?
I don't have too much problem with writer's block, I would say. And I think one of the reasons maybe is because I write out of order. So if I'm finding that I'm stuck on a scene, or, nothing's happening, this isn't working out, the way I want it to, or I can't seem to fit the clues in here, then I'll skip to another part of the book and work on that. And so sometimes it may be as simple as, well, this is going to require research in this part, and I need, to look up how to blow open the safe with nitroglycerin, and I don't know how to do that, and this kind of stuff. And so then I'll say, well, let me skip to a romance scene or something that's easy to write and is sometimes a little more fluffy and fun. And so then I'll work on a different part of the book instead. So that's usually how I overcome if I'm feeling blocked in a certain area. I'll just kind of skip to a different place.
I'm feeling like your Google history could be concerning to like the government.
Oh, yes, definitely. I've thought about that before. I said I'm probably on some sort of watch list after this series.
Yeah. What would you say is like your favorite part of the writing and publishing process, if it's after too?
I feel like as a librarian, it's just always comes down to seeing the book on the shelf. Mm-hmm. After, when it's published, especially my first book, to see it on the library shelf next to all these people whose books I'd put away for years. And it was just really rewarding. So I always say it kind of is amazing how it's almost like magic, how you take they take a document on your computer and then turn it into like a beautiful book with a pretty cover. And, and it all comes together to create this sort of, it's all in my head, but then it comes together to create this outside thing that can be in other people's heads. So I think that's pretty cool.
Honestly, it's kind of funny because I found your book because I was just wandering around my library looking for like a mystery book. And I think it was like sitting out. And I thought the cover it was so beautiful and like so different that I was like, oh, I'm just going to check this out. And then I was like, oh, that doesn't usually happen.
Amazing. Like that. I love that.
Yeah. Were you part of designing the cover, or was that something someone else did?
That's something they have some cover artists through the publisher, and they've always done an amazing job. Every time I get one of the books, I'm more excited than the last. Yeah. So there's been several times when they've sent me the email, here's the proof of your cover, and then I'll just gasp because they're so pretty and perfect. So I've really been fortunate with my cover designers. They've done an awesome job.
Yeah, no, they're really, they caught my eye. So, so with your first series, you'd written the first book, and so you were looking for the agent, got the publisher. But with the second series, you actually already had a publisher, and they wanted more, right?
Yes, they said they were interested in seeing if I was interested in starting a second series. Okay.
And so when they approached you about that, had you already read the Agent Zigzag book, or were you like, I have to come up with a new idea?
I think I had actually already read the Agent Zigzag book, because I remember when they asked me, I kind of had this idea floating around in my head a little bit already. I was like, oh, that was an idea that I was interested in exploring. And I thought that it would make a fun series because of, all the different, there's a little bit of criminals from different walks of life that they know, and they're different criminal contacts that they pull in to do different aspects of the job. And so I thought that would be a fun sort of world to explore.
Yeah.
So it was high on my list. And when I sent them the idea, they really liked it.
Nice. I think you should like bring back your gangster idea too. Do something, because I love gangster stories.
I actually, the sixth Amory Ames book, they go to New York City and get a little bit involved with the Prohibition era. It's the tail end of Prohibition because it's the early 30s, but they sort of get involved with an underworld character, and so that was sort of my homage to those early days of my gangster series. Because I do sort of have a soft spot for those 1920s bootleggers and things. I always thought that was such an interesting time in American history for sure.
I think it's fascinating. I've always been fascinated by like the mob and any like criminal. I feel like if I wasn't so like paranoid about getting caught, I'd be a criminal. It'd be fun. Instead, I became a lawyer. So.
Oh, well, it's adjacent, like to crime, the world of crime.
Yeah.
The courtrooms, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not even that kind of lawyer.
Oh, well, still the law.
I sit at a computer.
Yeah.
I think part of my fascination with that is my grandparents lived on the Mississippi River, and their house looked like right out at the river, and across from them was a tunnel that the gangsters, the mob, built, and they would smuggle stuff there. And so the FBI would come and sit in their living room and watch the
Oh, that's
mobsters.
amazing.
Yeah, so I'm like, I feel like I had that like story, and I'm just like, it's so fascinating. So
Yeah, that would make a good story too. And
yeah,
then, have the FBI sitting in your living room
hmm
and
yeah.
watching out the,
Well, feel
yeah.
free to use that.
Yeah, good. You've got some good fodder for stories in your family history for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I do actually. Wow. I never really thought about that, but I don't know. My grandma has written a bunch of books, so she's definitely a
Oh,
writer.
awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So do you have a new project in process?
I don't at the moment. I don't have anything definite. There's a few ideas I'm sort of swirling around. I recently, last year, switched. I worked in public libraries for 19 years, and I took a job as an elementary and middle school librarian
Okay.
at a school. So I've made a day job switch, and so I'm sort of, this will be my second year. We actually go back to meetings and stuff tomorrow. Today's my last day of summer vacation, which was
Yeah.
awesome. I hadn't had summer vacation since I was a kid probably, so it was pretty nice having the summer off. But
We should all have
so
it.
now that I'm kind of settling into this sort of, I feel like it's going to leave me a little more brain space for turning out something new.
How is that different than working in a public library? Like, what would you say is like the biggest difference, other than the kids, I suppose? But
I think one of the biggest differences for me on the day-to-day basis was in my previous job. I worked kind of behind the scenes. I had an office in the back where I would catalog books and do the kind of behind the scenes things, and here I'm people facing all day, and I wasn't sure how I felt about if I was going to be drained by that, but actually I really enjoyed it last year, and the kids are a lot of fun and kind of makes the day go by really fast.
nice.
So I've been happy with the switch. I loved my old job and all the people I worked with, but this opportunity came up, and I was like, well, maybe it's time for me to spread my wings and try something new. So I took a risk, and so far it's been good.
Is there anything that you find surprising about being a librarian? Because I mean, you've been a librarian for quite a while. So is it I feel like people see librarians a lot, but I'm like, what do they actually do? Is maybe my question.
Yeah, there's a lot of different, and I've actually done a lot of different jobs within the library. I started working at a library after school when I was 14.
Oh wow.
So it's actually the same year that my freshman year of high school when I wrote my first book. So my writing career and my librarian career have always sort of gone hand in hand, I say. But so I did the sort of circulation stuff where you're working the front desk and checking out books and checking in books and that kind of thing. And then I did more of the technical services was my previous job, where that was behind the scenes, where I was, processing books. I'd order books, catalog them, put all the labels on and that kind of stuff, and get them ready to put out, or I'd, repair damaged books, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned working at the reference desk. I did that for a while. So that was, answering people's questions and helping them with their research and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of different, there's a lot of actually kind of different avenues of librarianship you can pursue.
I like the damaged books thing. I once tried to return a book that our puppy had just ripped apart. I was like, maybe they won't notice. They definitely did.
It happens for sure.
Yeah, I know.
I think one time somebody returned a book to me that their child had chewed on. So that was something new. But babies will do that.
Yeah, babies and puppies.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. We'd see. I think one of the going back to your question, the things most surprising about librarianship is the library's hardly ever quiet. A lot of people think that librarians get to sit and read all day, which, I wish I could sit and read all day. But yeah, libraries are hardly ever a quiet place. There's always something going on and some kind of ruckus happening.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you have any free time, but if you do, how do you spend it?
Well, unsurprisingly, I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
That's, probably my favorite pastime. And I like to travel a lot.
Okay.
I mentioned my trip to Paris, so that was a great memory, but I tried and, fit in trips whenever I can. I'm excited now because during the summers it'll provide me some more opportunity, to be off and travel. Actually, my cousin, our friend, and I just got back last week. We went to Las Vegas to see the Backstreet Boys in the Sphere.
Oh no, are you serious?
It was so amazing.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
My sister's gonna be so jealous. She and her friends still go. Millennium was my first concert.
Oh wow, amazing. Yeah, it was really fun. It was really
Yeah.
like a special, nostalgic moment.
Yeah.
So,
Are they all there still?
yep,
Okay.
they're all there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, I think, like a 6-week residency
Hmm.
at the Sphere, doing shows Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then I think they added a week.
Wow. Yeah.
So
That's
it seemed like
amazing.
it, and they were, selling out. So hopefully, I'm like, hopefully they'll come back again,
Hmm.
in a year or two, and maybe I'll get to go again. It was really fun.
I feel like the songs that you grew up with, like, I think we're probably about the same age. I'm like a 90s kid. And I'll
Yeah,
just be doing something random. Like, I was journaling the other day and I just had this song pop in my head, and it was like the Britney Spears song, like Dear Diary. It just like,
yeah,
and I knew all the lyrics and I was like, this is a problem.
yeah, yeah. That's yeah, and I mean they sang all the old favorite songs. So of course everyone's like screaming the
Hmm.
lyrics and dancing
Yeah.
around together, and it was really
Yeah. You
fun.
figured a lot of things, but you never forget those lyrics.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you have a recommendation on like a cozy mystery or thriller series?
I do. I have a lot of favorites. I always enjoy Deanna Rayburn's books.
Hmm.
She has a couple series that are really good. Um, and I belong to a group called Sleuths in Time authors, and we're all mystery
Oh,
writers
cool.
who write in different eras of history.
Yeah.
And so the other writers in that group, they're different. Some of them are set in England, some are set in America, and they're throughout different periods of history. But if I always recommend their books
Hmm.
to anyone who's looking for kind of the similar cozy
Yeah.
vibe, and usually with a female protagonist who's smart and savvy and good at solving mysteries.
Okay.
So that's Alyssa Maxwell, Nancy Harriman, Colleen Cambridge. Oh, I hope I'm going to be able to remember everybody now. Now I'm on the spot. Um,
You can always email it to me and I'll
let's
link it.
see. Who did I say? Jessica Ellicott,
Okay.
and the other one is Clara McKenna.
Cool.
I got them.
All right. Lots of recommendations. I like that.
Yes. So that's several. If people are interested in reading, historical female-led
I
series.
like that. Okay. And then do you have any advice for a young woman who is aspiring to be an author?
I always find that the best writing advice that I've seen is from Stephen King, and he said if you want to be a writer, you have to do two things: you have to read a lot, and you have to write a lot.
Yeah.
Because reading, you learn the kinds of things you are interested in
Hmm.
writing, and the things you're interested in, the sort of style you're interested in, you learn through reading what you would love to write.
Hmm.
And then as for writing a lot, I always I think a lot of people get the idea that they have to sit down and create this amazing novel, as soon as they sit down at the
Hmm.
computer. And I've written so many things. Sometimes I write things just for fun. I have no intention of publishing them, but if I get an idea of just a fun scene I might like to write, or an idea for just a little snippet of a story, I have a document that I
Hmm.
just open up on my computer, just called Ideas, unoriginal. But I just open my ideas document and write it down, just because it's good to work on your, the craft of writing, even if it's not something that you think that is going to be, the next great American novel. Sometimes you just write for writing's sake,
Yeah.
and practice as much as you can.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I mean, maybe someday I would write a book. I don't know. But I do that a lot. I have a lot of just unfinished things on my computer that I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay if it's only ever me. Because I enjoy
Yeah.
it and I had an idea and it's there.
Well, now you've got that whole prohibition era thing going on. You could have the FBI agent, and maybe like there's a young woman in
Hmm.
the family who falls in love or something
Maybe,
along those lines. So
maybe we'll have to watch for, oh,
and never say never.
so what are you obsessing over lately?
I The most recent thing I was obsessing over was I was watching, because of Backstreet Boys mainly. I was watching. It's on Netflix. It's a show called Building the Band,
Okay.
and it's hosted by AJ
Oh,
McLean.
he
He's my
was my
favorite
favorite.
Backstreet
Wait, he's
Boy.
your favorite too? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Okay.
yeah, AJ girly.
We're definitely the same age.
Yeah. So it's kind of, one of those reality shows where they're like all in like little cubes and listening to each
Hmm.
other sing, and then they have to decide if they want them in their band, and then they
Okay.
have to make connections and build a band together. And then I haven't finished the series yet. I have like 3 episodes left, but I've really been enjoying
I'm
that.
definitely gonna watch that.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, it's, kind of silly, cheesy
Yeah.
reality show type stuff, but I always enjoy a singing competition show, and it's kind of fun to see. When you have a group, there's also like the singing, and there's also all kinds of interpersonal conflict, which is always makes for good, reality TV.
Great TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been obsessing over. I waited a long time, and then I finally ordered Unbound Merino. It's like travel clothes. I'm wearing the hoodie. And I kept hearing about it on one of my favorite podcasts, and I'm going to Scotland, and so I was like, I obviously need travel clothing.
Oh, amazing.
So I finally ordered it, and I've been wearing it like for a week straight, and it's so comfortable, and I'm like,
oh, perfect.
Yeah, so highly recommend. Love it.
That's awesome.
And I know
I'm hoping to get to Scotland next year.
really?
That's on my
Yeah.
couple friends and I, like, we were a couple years ago, we were like, okay, we're going to shoot for 2026. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Okay, so I'm not going to get this right. I'll send it to you after if you want it.
Oh, yeah.
There's this photographer in Scotland, I think based in Edinburgh. I found her on Instagram, and she does main character photo shoots for women.
I think I've maybe seen that.
It looks so
It's
cool.
kind of like Outlander type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes. And I submitted, but I didn't get it because there was like a wait
Oh.
list. But maybe you could submit early enough because I found it out too late. But I was like, I really want to dress up in a gown with a sword and go to a castle.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, definitely send it to
yeah,
you if you
I
get
will.
a chance.
I was so disappointed. I was like, oh. My mom and I are going. So I was like, wouldn't it be amazing if the two of us had swords and gowns and we're gallivanting around Edinburgh?
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next time.
Maybe next time. I'm going to recommend today a YouTube channel called Nourish Move Love. And she's out of Minnesota. And I've been doing, she's like a weightlifting, like beginner. I think she's more than beginner, but I'm a beginner. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I really like her. And she does like 10 minutes. She's always like 10 minutes is better than no minutes. So I feel very motivated by 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's really encouraging because sometimes I look at stuff, I'm like, oh, I have to like build up so far to do that. But to say,
yes,
just you have to start somewhere. Like we said, starting is the hardest part.
It
so
is.
That sounds like a
yeah.
good.
So I'm like 10 minutes. Yeah, I can do that. Some are 5. I even do 5.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing, I don't know if I have any recommendations off the top of my head, and I'll probably think of 25 once I.
You brought some great book recommendations, which I always need. So we will share those for sure. I'll link to them. What are you looking forward to this week?
I'm actually looking forward to starting back to school.
Yeah. Is it tomorrow?
It's just meetings this week, but it is tomorrow. Yes. We're starting back to sort of, administrative stuff and kind of getting back into the swing of things. But I'm looking forward to the new year and getting to see. Yeah. I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, I really missed a lot of the kids. And I ran into a couple of them around town over the summer, and it was fun to see them, and they were excited to see me, which was so cute. And so there's Miss Weaver. Yeah. I was at a restaurant I was actually with my book club, and a couple of them ran up to the table. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting back into the swing of things and getting the school year going.
I feel like that elementary age is just like they get excited to see teachers and staff outside of school. They're like, oh my gosh, you're awesome.
Yeah. And then I probably, once you hit high school, I imagine.
They grow out of it.
Avoid you in the store if they see you.
Yeah. Well, this week I'm really excited because I'm finally getting my haircut. I've rescheduled it like 2 or 3 times. So
feels good to get it checked off the list.
It does, yeah. So Ashley, where can people find you and find your book specifically?
You can find me I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on X, but I'm not always. It's kind of like I check into X once in a while, but I'm trying to remember. I think I'm at Ashley Weaver Author.
Okay. I'll link to you. Don't worry. I got it.
Okay.
I got you.
Yeah. So that's where they can find me, and you can find my books wherever books are sold, as they say.
Yeah. And everyone should definitely follow Ashley, read her books. I'm a fan.
Thank you so much.
I've been telling everyone about this. I'm like, I started the podcast just to meet people I want to meet.
Yeah, that's a really fun idea, though. I bet, you get to meet a lot of interesting people through doing a podcast.
It's fun. Well, thanks for being here. And everyone, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to my Crunchy Zen era. Please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This podcast is produced by me, Nicole Swisher, and my good friends Summer Harkup and Liz Coulter. Editing is by Drew Harrison Media, and recording is done by Lagos Creative in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be back next week.